Hey, guys, I'm so sorry. Do you hear that?
What's that?
I hear an intro video montage.
A long time ago, in a studio bungalow not so far away, when George Lucas penned his epic space opera, he probably had absolutely no idea he was about to change the way we think about sustainability. And yet he did, that scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Who's scruffy looking?
Ecologically, he taught the world to do or do not, because, you know,
There is no try.
little did he know that the country of Iceland saw
This is the way.
This is the West. It's the way.
and picked up what George was putting down by putting that sustainable tech into practice and living like they're from a galaxy far, far away. Don't believe us? Well, to prove our point, we sent our very own Jacob Gibbons 4,360 miles across the world to find out how Iceland is Star Wars in real life.
We sent you to Iceland?
Yeah. For our audience at home, when I went to Iceland, I saw incredible technology. And when I brought home pictures and videos, I was showing Noel, and he was like, this is like the Star Wars universe. And I was like, how? And the moment he started telling me, I was like, we have to share this with our Upward Spiral audience. And that's why we're doing this today. So I'm going to start out of the gate with one of the first things I saw, which is their geothermal power. I went to multiple places, but one of the ones I saw was on power geothermal. And it was incredible because it was out in this very wide, barren landscape with mountains in the distance. They had a lot of snow on the mountains far away. And I was like, I can't think of what world or topography this reminds me of. And you out of the gate said,
Iceland is Hoth.
it's Hoth.
Yeah.
Like right away.
100%.
If you don't remember, Hoth is in Empire Strikes Back. It's that wintry planet that they're battling on in the very beginning. And what's the number one thing that the Empire is trying to destroy?
He has General Veers take out the power generator.
Prepare to target the main generator.
The power generators.
Yes.
And as soon as you said that, I was
Yes.
like, that's it.
Yes.
The power generators. They are generating power with geothermal. And when you watch Empire, you're like, there's no other way to power this icy planet than like geothermal or magma under the surface.
I just don't think it would work very well, right? Because you have wind is gonna freeze up probably. Solar,
Yeah.
it's gonna be very inconsistent.
Yeah.
Your water's frozen, so you'd have to like find wheels underground. I mean, it's not gonna work, right?
Exactly.
The geothermal, it's natural. You gotta imagine that probably there's a lot of volcanic activity sitting underneath
Yeah.
in Hoth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Hoth down there.
It's hot down.
Yeah.
So it's just somebody trying to describe the under the surface temperature, but they have a lisp. That's what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is a really Hoth planet.
It's a very hot
Yeah,
planet.
it is.
So that was perfect. That right out of the gate, I was like, this is the power source that they have.
I'm so
And-
sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Could you imagine, like, there's like the one guy that discovers Hoth,
Yeah.
and he radios up, like, guys, it's really Hoth up here. They're like, great. And they come in like Bermuda shorts.
And it's
Yes.
frozen.
It's frozen.
That's how I imagine it happened.
Yeah.
That's why I think General Veers was wearing that giant hat.
Yeah.
Because he was thinking, I need sun protection.
General Veers is in the AT-AT.
Yeah, he's the guy in the AT-AT who's walking along, and he's giving all the orders, and Vader's got his little, hologram talking to him, destroy the generator. And then he's like, Darth Vader, and then he dies, like 6 episodes later in Indiana Jones.
Wait. It's the same guy in Indiana Jones?
Yeah, he dies in Indiana Jones. In the Lucas universe, he's alive until Indiana Jones. and then they kill
Oh,
him
he's the
again.
dude with the cup.
Yes, he's the one who says, bring me the cup.
In Last Crusade.
Yeah. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That's where General Veers dies. You guys didn't know that? This is totally canon. So let's watch him die right now. Ooh.
Obviously, guys, he chose poorly.
That's a rough way to go.
He chose wisely with the blowing up the generators,
Yeah.
and then he chose poorly later with the
The
cup.
brutal part is the hair going out. Like, hair kept growing, man.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
brutal. Like, and just
Terrible.
like right down the back
What
of his
a
head.
way
It's
to
just,
go.
just for the audience so they know, with geothermal energy, what you're trying to do is you're trying to take natural heat or steam that either does exist or can be created under the surface, right? Where it's super hot because you've got magma close to the surface in some places on Earth, right?
Yeah.
And so in some cases you already have the steam. And so you take that steam and they call that dry steam.
Yeah.
And then you just run steam directly through a turbine, and then you create energy, and then you collect the water, you condense it, you throw it back down so you can heat it up again. You do that over and over again, right? Or you can do flash steam. And with flash steam, it's where you actually have water that isn't yet superheated. And then you actually pump the hot water up, and then you pressurize it in a little tank, and then the pressurizing that is what turns it into steam. And then you shoot that through the generator.
Yeah.
And those are kind of the two ways that they do it. And it's really clever, works really well. The other way that people will do it is if it's not quite as hot, but you just want to bury pipes underground, that's pretty consistent heat down there. So you can heat your house by just pumping water down into the ground, and then letting it heat up with the natural heat of the earth, and then you put it back up, and you can melt snow on roads, on your roof. You can keep the house warm and do all that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot more of that than there is with geothermal, like generation of power, but it's still really cool tech, and it's just a good use of heat.
You know, that's the funny thing is actually Iceland buries all their cables under the ground. You didn't see any of their piping or their electricity. It's all under the ground. So you just, when you're looking across the landscape, it's open. It's just like Hoth. And that's one of the ways that you're right. Iceland is a Star Wars planet.
I knew it.
In Iceland, one of their big technologies is fish.
Fish?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Tech fish.
fish tech.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
To be serious, I visited this place called the Iceland Ocean Cluster.
Okay.
And the Iceland Ocean Cluster
And they
is like
made
this
robot fish?
robot fish that
Okay.
will take over the world, and you better be afraid.
Do they have frickin' laser beams?
Sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their
They have
heads.
freaking laser beams. No, this is
Are they
actually
tempered sea bass?
pretty amazing. They have this giant building that is like an incubator of all these businesses that are working towards like
Fish.
marine technology.
Okay.
So anything that has
So
to do
not
with
just fish, anything
not
to
just
do
fish.
with the water.
Anything that has to do with like cultivation of fish, fishing, overfishing, the all like
Underfishing?
Underfishing. Yes, underfishing too. Some people do underfish.
I've heard.
Yeah. So this guy underfishes. So they have this place, and everything revolves around using 100% of the fish as a resource. They had found that 50% of fish in North America and Europe had been completely discarded as waste. And so they were trying
That
to
makes
figure
sense.
out a way.
That tracks.
Yeah, that tracks, right? So Iceland is a country, if anybody is concerned about overfishing, it's not a problem.
I am.
Yeah, I know you are.
The reason I don't eat fish is because I'm concerned about it has nothing to do with this with the smell.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the flavor.
Yeah.
Or the fact that I keep being force-fed sushi every single day with like a funnel.
Yes.
It's because I believe in fish.
You believe in fish. I believe in the fish.
Woo.
I believe that they like to swish.
Don't ever put them on the dish, because I ain't gonna eat the fish.
That's right. We all know that classic song.
Oh, by such a good guy too.
Such a good guy.
Yeah.
So that is they don't have an overfishing problem in Iceland because the ones that they have as their main courses, the cods and whatnot, it doesn't seem to be a population diminishing, and they've got it nice and balanced.
Yeah.
But they're saying what we are catching, we should be using 100%. So every part of the fish, the fish body, the bones, the head,
The butt.
the spleen, the butt.
The spleen?
Yes. Do fish have spleens?
No, but they could have. I don't think so.
I don't think they have
Yeah,
spleens
yeah,
either.
but I mean, but let's give them spleens.
They're trying to use it, and they put them in like supplements. They put them in the food. They were making fish ties.
Really?
Yeah, they had it was unbelievable. You would walk around, and from place to place, they were using every single part of the fish. And the guy who set this whole thing up, I don't remember how to pronounce his last name, but his first name is Thor.
Thor?
Thor. And
Thor,
he
good.
wrote a book called 100% Fish, and you pronounce their name Thor.
Thor.
So it has like a nice
That's like
little
how
roll.
Veronica says like
Yes.
Caro.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
she says Caro. She doesn't say Caro.
Yeah.
She says she totally says words with
How do you,
the
how do you
double
give
double
me a nice little roll of the opposite?
Carro.
Oh, there you go.
Well, the entire show just got a lot cooler.
The whole show
You
got a lot
should
cooler.
read
This show
audiobooks.
was-
We should definitely cut
This
to.
is how I imagine it was on the planet of Camino before they turned themselves into the advanced cloning culture that they
Where
turned
is
into be.
Camino? I just think of an El Camino. That's what I think of. So where
that was
in
the original name, and then they got rid of El,
Yeah.
and then just became Camino.
They're like,
Yeah.
back on planet El Camino.
Camino, and they would just ride
Right.
down the
Just be
road.
like,
Yes,
like this.
Absolutely.
So
No, Camino.
where is Camino in the
Did
Star Wars
you
universe?
watch Attack of the Clones?
I did, but
Okay.
it's been a minute.
Okay, in Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan has to go find out what's going on with there's this crazy garbage happening with like some secret thing with the Sifo-Dyas Jedi who's anyways.
Is that Jar Jar Binks' planet or no?
No, that also has a lot of water. I'm talking about a purely water all planet. It's all water.
all
This is
water.
where they did the cloning.
They did the clown!
This. You remember the guys, the big
right.
long
There's
necks and
literally
little
no
tiny
land.
heads?
There's no
Yes.
land. It's
There's
just
no
like
land.
that
They
little-
just have these little pods that are floating on the ocean.
Right.
And then there's like
Okay.
waves going everywhere. And then again, the guys very tall, doohickey long heads, and they kind of
Yeah.
those guys.
So that's a place that would use
I
100%
think
of the
in
fish.
Camino, when they
Yeah.
were figuring out how to make it work, they probably had their own ocean cluster.
Yeah. There you go. Camino, the fish planet, is
Yes.
exactly like Iceland.
El Camino. El Camino. It's half a car. It's half a truck. Get in the back. We'd like to.
ocean cluster, one of the businesses was this fascinating company called Kerasis. And Kerasis takes like the excess fish skin on like a cod and it uses it on injuries like wounds, like a burn or whatever.
To graft skin.
Graft skin. And so basically the human skin figures out and pulls from this fish skin and starts to graft it on top to heal it up.
How
and
cool
that
is
was
that?
a piece of technology that I was like, that's amazing. That's the future. That's the year 3000. How is that like Star Wars?
That's Empire Strikes Back. At the very end of it, remember Luke gets his hand cut off.
Right. Yes.
So then he's got a
skin.
robot hand, right? And then they've got the little flap that opens up and closes. So they had to grow skin over that sucker, man.
His hand's lopped off, right?
Obviously,
so you still have...
because it happens every time you fight your dad.
Right. When you fight your dad, you lose your hand. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that.
Happened to me every time I fought my
Mind
dad.
yourself, kids. If you fight your dad, you lose your hand.
You lose your hand for sure.
I want that for a shirt, like a family. You fight your dad, you lose your hand.
That's how it
So obviously Luke had some excess skin around the wrist where it was lopped off.
Yes.
So if you were to just put the robotic hand there, and then you're like fish.
Wrap it in fish.
Wrap it in fish.
Wrap It in Fish is also playing this Friday at the El Rey.
So then they put it there, and then it grows back, and then all of a sudden Luke's got the hands, and the robot does the little doop, 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 and he's like,
and the senses work because it's organic material, man.
Yeah.
Fish
So
love.
This is the future. The future is fish.
The future is fish.
Another thing that Iceland is really famous for, of course, are like the natural hot springs in the Blue Lagoon, right? You've seen the picture of the people in the Blue Lagoon.
The boy and the girl grew strong and tall and beautiful.
That actually exists because of a technological mistake.
Really?
They were actually digging into the geothermal underneath the ground, and they accidentally had this overflow of the silica, and that's what gives it that blue appearance. But they say it's also very mineral rich, and it's very healing and restorative, and that's like one of the reasons that you go soak in these hot springs. This is why people, when you go vacation there, they're like, you got to get in it because it's good for the body, it's good for the soul, and so...
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
The Bacta tanks from Star Wars.
Oh.
Do you remember in the book of Boba Fett?
Yeah.
Right? So the whole beginning of that, the whole like first several episodes where he's having those flashbacks,
Right.
he has them while he's in the Bacta tank. He's in there healing because he'd been in the friggin' Sarlacc pit.
That's right.
You know, you're being digested for 1,000 years.
Right.
And in the process of healing from all the hurt, he was in a Bacta tank. And so also was Luke, if you remember, in Empire Strikes Back.
There you go.
Luke in a diaper.
That thing always reminded me of those tubes at the bank where you put the thing in. It was like,
Yes.
like that. I always thought that's where Luke went. Like when he suddenly gets sucked out of frame. I was like, he went to the bank.
Yeah, they sent him to the mailroom.
In Iceland, they are, like I talked earlier about the geothermal plant, and they all share these technologies with each other.
And this has all been Star Wars so far.
Yeah, it's all worked. It's linked up completely. All these companies that like are making energy and heating things, whatnot, they all share. So if there's CO2 coming out of this company over here, this company is working to capture it.
Okay.
And so there's this company there called CarbFix. And so they were taking the excess CO2, capturing it, blending it with this kind of like bubbly water, but bringing it back into the earth and turning it back into stone.
Yeah.
So it's going back. So they're basically accelerating the process of what eventually would happen over a long period of time, capturing it and putting it in carbon sinks. Is that correct? So it's like a carbon sink.
Yeah.
So that is what carbon is.
This makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
You were taking gas and putting it into rock?
Yeah, there's
Yes.
a lot of confusion as to like how it works and why it is that we have so much CO2 in the atmosphere.
Right.
So we'll do a real fast education for the audience.
Best education by Noel.
Okay, so here we go. Carbon dioxide goes into the air because we convert solid or liquid carbon into gas.
Right.
Carbon dioxide is the most common gas form of carbon. Right. So what you'll do is like you'll burn wood is the quickest, is like a way that's famously bad for the environment, right? And people getting rid of fireplaces and whatever else. So you burn wood, you turn the solid wood into carbon dioxide, right?
Right.
You burn oil, you've now turned liquid carbon into carbon dioxide. You can do the reverse. You can take it back and you can put it back in the ground, and that's what they're talking about doing. It's just instead of going the way where we burn it and turn it into gas, we're now converting from gas back into solid.
Yes.
Another really great way that nature does this is with trees.
Well, yeah.
If you plant a tree, you are creating a carbon capture device, because what it does is it absorbs CO2 and then it grows and turns that CO2 into wood and a tree and leaves and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the things that stuck out to me the most, because the moment I thought about something being captured in carbon, that's when Ding 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 reminded me of a very specific scene in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Which is...
It's when Vader goes, no!
No, not that part right there.
okay.
No.
That would be when Han Solo was
Yes.
frozen in carbonite.
Yes, exactly.
I see what you did there.
The very first carb fix was in carbonite. So they were basically trying to protect the environment by
freezing Han Solo,
putting him in
turning
this
him into
thing,
a
putting him in this pit,
carbonite.
which they thought it was going to kill him at first. Which was one of the things.
That's
that
right. 'Cause that's the thing people always forget is that the idea was we don't want to do it to Luke. They wanted to
Right.
send Luke.
Right, and he was like, "Well, I got to make sure it works. So bring that dummy in here."
I feel terrible.
Little does he know that dummy's going to kill General Veers later.
More beautiful than I'd ever imagined.
Getting near the end of my Iceland trip, and we're seeing over and over again how they continually have that Star Wars technology, and this is exactly it. Carb fix is locking our friends in carbonite. As soon as I got back from Iceland, the first question people always asked me who had been there before or were familiar with Iceland, they were like, "Did you eat the fermented shark?"
Oh my God, the
Because
fermented shark. Yes.
that's what they're famous for.
Yeah.
And for those who are listening and don't know about this, this is a tradition. It's something that if you're in Iceland, it's like something you have to have as like you're honoring this age-old tradition of having a shot of Brennivin and you have the fermented shark.
Did it taste great?
No.
Okay.
It tasted like this.
There we go. I kind of like it. Oh, there's something at the end that is weird. No, that got odd.
You know, that reminds me of Star Wars.
Yeah, how does that remind
That
you of
reminds
Star
me
Wars?
of Star Wars because on Dagobah, when Yoda was training Luke Skywalker and he was trying to give him deal with the food, the food was pretty gross there too.
It was like this. I like that I'm setting up all of Clayton's clips. Anyway, so a little backstory on why they eat the fermented shark, which I thought was kind of cool, is when the country was first being founded, there wasn't a lot of food out there, right? And so there was a Greenland shark, and if you were trying to eat a Greenland shark like right after it was killed, it's too toxic. You can't digest it. It's not safe to consume.
That's what we should be trying to do with our bodies so that we stop getting eaten.
Yeah, exactly. You have to prevent yourself from being eaten by
being more toxic.
Being more toxic.
Can you just be more of a toxic?
Can you be
Please?
more?
I know a lot of those.
Yes. Yes, we live in LA.
Yeah.
So 1,000 years ago, or however long it was, they buried a Greenland shark in the ground, and then out of desperation, they dug it up to try to just get some kind of food, and they found that after it fermented, the toxic part was gone, and then you could eat it. So it wasn't very good, but it kept them alive.
Gave them nutrition.
Yes, it kept them alive. And to this day, every Greenland shark that they have there for the fermented shark, for anybody who's worried about the Greenland shark, that's all bycatch.
Okay.
It's not they're going out and hunting Greenland sharks.
So they can ferment them and eat terrible food.
No, it's bycatch, and only about 80 are accidentally bycaught every year. That's how limited the resource is.
Okay.
So I know that they're probably working on ways that they're not capturing the Greenland shark. As it's still happening, they still do the fermenting process.
And it doesn't really seem like it's something everybody wants to eat anyway because it's kind of gross.
No.
So it really is a special occasion.
It's a special occasion thing, and it's something that you do as like a rite of passage. But yeah, it was pretty.
So what do
gross.
they eat in Iceland?
Mostly fish.
Fish or Greenland sharks. That reminds me a little bit about on the Death Star, right? Because Iceland is like you have this place where there's no food, right?
Yeah.
All you have is fish and like Greenland sharks that are toxic.
Yeah.
So if you're on the Death Star, which is made of metal, and I imagine has about as much food naturally as Iceland.
Yes.
How would they feed all of those people on that? I mean, there's like almost 2 million soldiers. I have to check notes.
That would be 1.7 million soldiers there.
1.7. That's not bad. That's a pretty good guess.
That is a good guess. And there's only up to 370,000 people in Iceland. And they rely upon the fish and whatnot. But in the Death
Star is bigger than Iceland.
Now, what's so great about this, and I love that you brought this up, have you ever seen the Eddie Izzard, the classic bit?
Well, the one thing about the Death Star is that there was no food. No one had food at all. No food at all. No one had... But there must have been a Death Star canteen, yeah? There must have been a cafeteria downstairs in between battles where Darth Vader could just chill and go down. I will have the penne alla arrabbiata. You'll need a tray. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? This is not a game of who the f*** are you. For I am Vader. Darth Vader. Lord Vader. I can kill you with a single thought. Well, you'll still need a tray.
Perfect question. If you are working on manufacturing food in a closed system and not using finite resources, there was a place that I visited called Orf Genetics.
Okay.
So Orf Genetics was basically, they got in the business of beauty because they started out using barley. Now, I am not a scientist, and I do not know if I'm going to mess some of this up. So sorry, Orf Genetics, if I don't get the science right.
Go to Orf Genetics and check it out directly if you want to know the science.
Yeah, exactly. So they had like a greenhouse inside, and they were growing the barley, and they said that they chose barley because it was easy to grow, it was non-invasive, and then they can get into the stem cell of the barley.
Yeah, play with the DNA.
And they can make these growth proteins. And so they could make like a human growth protein that originally was for like skincare and facial products, but then they figured out they could make an animal growth protein. And with that, they pair in this animal DNA and they could lab grow meat. They could grow a burger.
They're turning beers into burgers?
Yes, they're turning barley into burgers. And
that's incredible.
So they were trying to figure out a way that if we are having farming problems in the world and we don't have enough animals and how are we going to feed everybody?
Yeah.
They found a way to
Well, if we keep only using 50% of everything, it's going to happen.
Exactly. So that is a perfect example of if you were on a space station like the Death Star, you would have to have something that grows
like you could just grow there. Yeah.
Right. Don't they do that in...
I'm so sorry. You just said grow a burger. Grow a cow.
Yeah.
No, well, not the whole cow.
Yeah, not the whole cow.
It's the cow properties.
Yes, but isn't this
Cow
now...
properties?
Yes.
What properties of the cows are we growing?
The hamburger. Hamburger properties.
We're growing the
fat,
burger
the meat.
parts.
They basically the burger, but
the Angus,
the yummy part, basically.
We're growing cow Angus.
But this is now not to deviate.
My favorite part of the cow is the
not
Angus.
to deviate from the Star Wars universe
or the Septum,
but not to deviate from the Star Wars universe or the Septum. This was in Star Trek, where you go up and you order food and it just appears.
Oh, yeah. They all had it in their room. They had a little machine where they can walk up and go, hamburger.
1 pan fried catfish.
And poof, there it was.
So this is where this kind of technology, you realize that this is why I feel like Iceland is doing stuff that we're like, this is sci-fi movie stuff.
Yeah.
This is like, we could grow. So if you could do what they're doing with barley and you could make it instant.
Pizza.
Right.
Man,
exactly.
This is how Iceland's going to win.
Yes, this is how they're going to win. So this is an example of how you could feed everybody on the Death Star, but I have another one. I have another example.
But even more than turning beer into hamburgers?
Yes, I do. They had this company there called, this was one of the coolest ones that I got to see during the trip. It was called Vaxa Technology, VAXA.
Okay.
Inside this building, they had taken microalgae and they created these indoor farms where they were creating
that's clever.
They were growing food. So the equivalent of out in a field and you had like soy, they could harvest all these nutrients to create
indoors,
supplements,
up and down walls.
Yes, exactly.
Everywhere,
And they had like a lighting system and they had all the water that was being used to create the system was being shared from the nearby facility again. Yeah. The Death Star was in harmony.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say.
That also
they were all
plays
in
back to their
harmony.
geothermal energy because that's how they're doing that too. They're reusing everything.
This is so I'm beginning to think that
badass.
Death Star weren't bad guys after all. They were just trying to create this nice utopian.
The Emperor was so misunderstood. That Emperor had the best intentions. What he wanted to do was just bring order.
He was just trying to
the galaxy,
and he was doing it through growing food and making burgers out of beer.
He wanted to force a carbon neutral galaxy upon everyone, and people just got upset about it. And they're like, "You're a jerk Emperor, and I hate you." And he's like, "Yeah, well, Darth Vader, go eat him in the face."
Welcome, Lord Vader. We've been expecting you.
The funny thing is that to your initial question about how do you feed everybody in a space station that's got close to 2 million people, this is an example of how Iceland has said, okay, we've got fish, we've got all these other ways of feeding people, but how can we grow food here that doesn't require land, the outdoors? It's pretty incredible.
Iceland said, hold my beer and let's turn it into meat.
Exactly. Yeah. Hold my beer. Let's turn it into lab-grown meat. The other crazy thing is that when Iceland started implementing and inventing a lot of these new technologies, it all started in the 70s.
Back in the 70s.
course it did.
Which is when Star Wars was coming out. So I can't back up that somebody was watching Star Wars.
I believe you can 100% verify that this was absolutely all created because of Star Wars.
But these movies probably had something to do with inspiration because they did hit worldwide. It was one of those phenomenons that got everywhere, and it probably got to Iceland. And there was probably some kid in his room who was like, I bet you I could make human skin heal using fish skin. Like there's somebody who was probably watching this concept and saw it in a science fiction story. And that's what is required is you have to dream. You have to see something creative that's never been done and then think, I can do that.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's our upward spiral message for this episode.
Upward spiral message.
Everybody out there who's a dreamer, everybody out there who sits there and they think about this cool thing or that cool thing or whatever else.
Yeah.
You're not a moron.
Yeah.
You're not,
Speak for yourself.
Except for a couple people. Yeah, he's definitely a moron.
But space cadets, right? Like people that they make fun of for like head in the clouds.
Yes, head in the clouds is a thing. Einstein was a head in the clouds guy, right? I mean, we have spaceships because of H.G. Wells. We have submarines because of Jules Verne, right? We have automatic doors because of Star Trek, right? Like we have so many things because of what dreamers created. And there's so many places you can create it. You can create it on a stage. You can create it in a book. You can create it in your mind through a poem, through a conversation, whatever. I mean, there's 1,000 ways, and anybody and everybody has their dreams.
Yeah.
So don't suppress those.
Yeah. Science fiction.
Yeah.
It's just as important to have the science and the fiction, the dreamers, the ones that think outside of what we know, and they're like exploring. Because if it's all science, if it's all logic, and it's all reason, it's all kind of stops at what we know a lot of the time. So you always have to have somebody who pushes past it. Yeah, and that's what you need.
You do. You got to be dreaming. You got to
be dreaming.
You got to stay at that dream, man.
Got to keep dreaming.
And then let's see what happens. Yeah, because if someone sees the idea, you never know, they might make it.
I have a little quote here. Can I read it to you?
Sure.
Okay. This is from a new writer. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of him. Named Mark Twain.
Never heard of him.
And this guy has to say, to live a fulfilled life, we need to keep creating the what is next of our lives. Without dreams and goals, there is no living, only merely existing. And that is not why we are here.
Total hack. No, that's great.
In conclusion, Iceland is Star Wars.
Star Wars is Iceland. Exactly.
Upward spiral.
Exactly.
Come back and check us out for more top quality content.
See you there.
Upward spiral, upward spiral, upward spiral.